Christmas Eve was supposed to be warm, soft lights, laughter, family. Instead, the first thing I saw was my daughter, shaking in the snow. Have you ever felt your heart drop so fast it steals your breath? That's what happened to me the moment I stepped out of the taxi. Snow crunched under my boots as I stood outside a 2-story house glowing with golden lights. Christmas music floated through the air, cheerful and loud, like everything inside was perfect. The smell of roasted meat drifted out, mixing cruelly with the icy wind that cut through my coat. I smiled at first. I really did. I had flown in secretly just to surprise my daughter Claire. No calls, no warning. I imagined her laughing, running to hug me like she used to when she was little. I pictured us sipping hot chocolate, talking late into the night like old times. But something felt wrong. The driveway was untouched. No footsteps, no cleared snow, like no one had stepped outside all evening. I walked closer to the porch, my breath fogging the air. And that's when I heard it. A soft sound. Not laughter, not music. A weak, broken sob. My heart slammed against my ribs. Under the dim porch light, next to a frozen flower pot, I saw her. Claire. My daughter was curled up on an old wooden chair, knees pulled to her chest. She wore a thin sweater, no coat, no scarf. Her hair was damp with melted snow sticking to her pale face. Her lips were blue. Her hands shook so badly it looked like her whole body might fall apart. For a second, my brain refused to believe it. Then instinct took over. Claire! I dropped my bag and ran. Her skin was ice cold when I touched her. Not just cold, dangerously cold. She lifted her head slowly, eyes red and empty, like she'd already cried all the tears she had. Mom? She whispered. That single word shattered me. I pulled off my coat and wrapped it around her, my hands shaking harder than hers now. I held her close, pressing her against my chest like I could force warmth back into her body through sheer will. I'm here, I whispered over and over. I've got you. You're not alone. Behind us, through the big window, I saw them. The family inside. Daniel, my son-in-law, stood near the fireplace, laughing loudly with a glass of wine in his hand. His parents sat comfortably at the table, plates full, faces relaxed. Someone raised a toast. Glasses clinked. Laughter exploded. They were celebrating, while my daughter was freezing outside like she didn't belong. Something inside me snapped. I remembered all the missed calls Claire never returned. The way her voice had sounded tired the last time we spoke. How she always said, I'm fine, Mom, just busy. She wasn't fine. She was breaking. I lifted her carefully into my arms. She was lighter than I remembered. Too light. As I stepped toward the door, I heard Daniel's voice, clearly now, loud and careless, joking about ruined plans and drama queens. My jaw tightened. Every step toward that door felt heavy, like the snow itself was trying to stop me. But I didn't hesitate, because no one puts my child out in the cold. Not on Christmas, not ever. I raised my foot and kicked the door open. But what I said next didn't just silence the room. It changed everything. The door slammed open so hard it rattled the walls. Christmas music stopped mid-note. Every laugh died instantly. I stepped inside, snow melting beneath my boots. My daughter still shaking in my arms. The warmth of the room hit us like an insult. Thick, heavy, undeserved. The fireplace crackled cheerfully as if nothing was wrong. All eyes turned to me. That's when I said the 6 words. I'm glad you're warm in here. Not shouted, not whispered. Cold, calm, sharp. You could feel it. the way those words sliced through the air, the kind of silence that follows when people realize they've been caught. Daniel's smile vanished. His parents froze mid-sip. His sister Megan lowered her glass slowly, eyes narrowing like she'd just seen something unpleasant crawl in. My daughter whimpered softly against my chest. I held her tighter. Daniel cleared his throat and forced a laugh. "What is this?" he said, waving his hand like I was an interruption. "You didn't call." "No," I replied, eyes locked on him. "I didn't." I took a step forward. Snow dripped onto their polished floor, leaving a messy trail they clearly hated. Good. Let it stain. His mother, Linda, stood up first, her lips curved into a fake smile so tight it hurt to look at. "Claire just needed some air," she said smoothly. "She's dramatic like that." I looked down at my daughter's blue fingers. "Air?" I repeated. Daniel rolled his eyes. "She does this every holiday," he muttered. "Acts fragile, so she doesn't have to help." That's when I felt Claire flinch. That tiny movement did something terrible to me. I turned slowly, scanning the table. Plates piled high, turkey untouched, wine bottles half empty, candles glowing. Everything about this room screamed comfort. "You let her sit outside," I said quietly. "In freezing weather, while you ate?" Megan snorted. "She's not a child." "No," I replied. "She's not. She's my child." Daniel stepped closer, his voice low and warning. "You don't get to come into my house and make scenes." My house. I almost laughed. I gently placed Claire on the couch, wrapping a scarf around her shoulders. Her teeth chattered. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. That's when his father, Robert, finally spoke. A slow, deep voice, the kind that's used to being obeyed. "This is a family matter," he said. "She needs to learn her place." My head snapped up. "Her place?" I echoed. Linda sighed dramatically. "Let's not pretend this is new," she said. "Claire hasn't exactly fulfilled her role as a wife." The room felt smaller. I felt Claire's breath hitch behind me. Daniel didn't deny it. He smirked. 4 pregnancies, he said casually. 0 babies. That wears people thin. The words slammed into my chest. 4. I remembered every phone call, every night she cried herself to sleep, every time she said, "Maybe it's my fault." And they were using it against her. Megan laughed softly. "Honestly, what's the point of a woman who can't—" I didn't let her finish. I turned so fast my vision blurred. "Enough!" One word, but it landed like thunder. Daniel scoffed. "What are you going to do? Yell?" I straightened my back. "No," I said. "I'm going to end this." That's when I noticed the figure outside the window. A uniform. A familiar face. Ethan. My former student. Now a police officer. He met my eyes and gave a slow, steady nod. I wasn't alone. And for the first time that night, fear flickered across Daniel's face. But what happened next would expose secrets they never expected to surface, right in front of everyone. Fear is a strange thing. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it slips out in small cracks. Tight smiles, shaking hands, sudden anger. I saw all of it on Daniel's face the moment he noticed the man outside. He followed my gaze to the window. Then his jaw tightened. "There's a cop outside," Megan muttered, her voice losing its edge. Linda shot her a warning look. "Lower your voice." I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I turned back to Claire. She sat hunched on the couch, clutching the scarf like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Her eyes were dull, distant, as if she'd already accepted this cruelty as normal. That broke me more than anything else. "Sweetheart, I said gently, kneeling in front of her. "How long have they been doing this to you?" The room stiffened. Daniel snapped, "Don't answer that." Claire flinched. That was all the answer I needed. Robert stepped forward, his face hard. "You're poisoning her against us," he said. "She's unstable." Unstable. The word hung heavy. I stood slowly, every muscle in my body tight. "Unstable people don't survive what she's survived," I said. "They don't keep going after being broken over and over." Linda crossed her arms. "We gave her everything," she scoffed. "A roof, food, comfort." I laughed. Once, short and bitter. "You gave her silence," I said, "and cold." Daniel slammed his glass onto the table. Wine splashed onto the cloth. "This ends now," he growled. "You take her and you leave." I nodded. "Oh, I am leaving," I said calmly, but not quietly. I walked toward the door, lifting Claire into my arms again. She weighed nothing. That terrified me. As I opened the door, Ethan stepped inside. The room shifted. Authority has a smell. You feel it before it speaks. "Evening," Ethan said, scanning the room. "We got a call about a disturbance." Daniel forced a laugh. "No disturbance. Family disagreement." Ethan's eyes landed on Claire, on her trembling hands, on the frost still clinging to her hair. He didn't smile back. "Ma'am," he said to Claire softly, "were you left outside against your will?" Claire hesitated. Her whole life had taught her to stay quiet. I squeezed her hand. "Yes," she whispered. That one word landed harder than my 6. Linda gasped. "She's confused." Megan snapped. "She lies when she's emotional." Ethan raised a hand. "Enough." Daniel's confidence cracked, just slightly. Ethan turned to me. "Would you like to file a report?" I met Daniel's eyes, and that's when he panicked. "You do that," he hissed, "and you'll regret it." Threats, on Christmas, in front of a cop, bold, stupid. Ethan's hand went to his radio. Robert's face darkened. "This family has influence," he warned. "Be careful." Ethan didn't blink. "So does the law." The room felt like it was holding its breath. I stepped forward. "This isn't just about tonight," I said. "This is about months of cruelty, emotional abuse, neglect." Daniel laughed, but it sounded hollow now. "Prove it." I didn't answer. I pulled out my phone and pressed play. What filled the room next would change the balance of power forever. The first sound that played from my phone wasn't shouting. It was laughter. Their laughter. The room stiffened as the audio filled the space. Clear, sharp, undeniable. Daniel's voice came first. "She's always cold, always weak. Acts like she's made of glass." Megan laughed next. 4 tries and still nothing. At some point you stop feeling sorry. Then Linda, calm, cruel. "If she can't give us grandchildren, the least she can do is stay out of the way." Claire's breath caught behind me. The fire crackled loudly, but no one moved. I watched their faces as their own words turned against them. The confident smirks drained. Megan's fingers curled tight around her glass. Robert stared straight ahead, jaw clenched like he could will the sound away. Ethan stepped closer to my phone, listening carefully. Daniel lunged forward. "Turn that off." I held the phone higher. "You told her she was worthless," I said, my voice steady but burning. "You told her to sit outside because she ruined the mood." Claire whispered, barely audible. "You said I didn't deserve warmth." That broke whatever illusion they had left. Linda snapped. "This is illegal." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Actually," he said calmly, "Idaho, allows one-party consent. If she recorded it, it's admissible. Robert's eyes flashed. For the first time, power slipped from his grip. "You planned this," Daniel spat at me. "No," I replied. "You did. Every time you opened your mouth." Claire stepped forward slowly, her legs shaking, but her voice stronger than I'd heard in years. "I begged you to stop," she said. "I begged you to let me stay inside." Megan scoffed weakly. "You're exaggerating." Ethan turned to Megan. "Ma'am, do you deny saying those things?" She hesitated. That pause was everything. Daniel snapped. "She's unstable. Depressed people imagine things." Claire flinched, but didn't retreat. "I was depressed," she said, "because you made me believe I was nothing." Silence, heavy, crushing. Ethan spoke again. "I'll need statements from everyone." Robert stepped forward, lowering his voice. "Officer," he said, "let's not make this public." Ethan met his gaze. Too late. I wrapped an arm around Claire. She was shaking, but standing. That mattered. Daniel glared at her. "You ruined everything." Claire looked up at him. "No," she said quietly. "You did." Ethan gestured toward the door. "Ma'am," he said to Claire, "would you like to leave with your mother tonight?" Claire didn't hesitate. "Yes." I felt something shift inside me. Relief mixed with rage. As we walked toward the door, Linda's voice cracked. "You'll regret this." I turned back. "No," I said, "you will." Outside, the cold hit us again, but this time, Claire didn't feel alone. Ethan walked beside us, already speaking into his radio. As we stepped into the night, snow began to fall softly, like the world was starting over. But behind us, inside that house, something had broken. And they knew it. But freedom came with a price, and they weren't done yet. Freedom isn't loud at first. It doesn't arrive with cheers or fireworks. Sometimes it comes wrapped in shaking hands, aching silence, and the deep fear of what comes next. Claire sat in the passenger seat as I drove through the snow-covered streets, her knees pulled to her chest, staring out the window like she was afraid the past might chase us. The heater hummed softly, but she still trembled. "You're safe now," I said gently. She nodded, but didn't believe it yet. I took her to my small apartment on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, just warm. A place where no one raised their voice or measured her worth. I wrapped her in blankets, made hot chocolate, and watched color slowly return to her face. She sipped quietly, hands still unsteady. Then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then again. Unknown number. I ignored it. The fourth time, a message appeared. "You just made a big mistake." Claire noticed my face tighten. "What is it?" she asked softly. "Nothing," I lied. But fear has a way of leaking through silence. An hour later, another message came. "You took what doesn't belong to you. Bring her back." Claire's fingers tightened around the mug. "They won't stop, will they?" she whispered. "No," I said honestly. "They won't." And that's when I knew this wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The next morning, snow still clung to the windows when Ethan knocked on my door. He looked serious, tired. "They're filing a complaint," he said, "claiming you kidnapped her." Claire gasped. "What?" I felt anger rise, but not panic. "She's an adult," I said. "She came willingly." Ethan nodded. "I know, but they're powerful, and they're angry." By noon it got worse. A lawyer called, then another. By evening a letter arrived, formal, cold, threatening, accusations, lies, demands. Claire folded into herself, guilt flooding her face. "This is my fault," she murmured. I knelt in front of her. "No," I said firmly. "This is what happens when abusers lose control." That night, I barely slept, and neither did they, because the next morning, the local news ran a short story. Police investigate Christmas Eve domestic dispute. No names yet, but enough detail to spark whispers. By afternoon, another story appeared. Woman found left outside in freezing weather. Claire stared at the screen, tears sliding silently down her face. "They're going to destroy me," she whispered. I took her hand. "They already tried," I said, "and they failed." But inside I knew the truth. The Whitfords weren't finished. They were preparing something bigger, something designed to break us completely. And I could feel it coming, like the calm before a storm. Next, they would strike where it hurt most, inside a courtroom. If you've ever stood on the edge of something big, something that could either save you or crush you, you know the feeling. That's where we were. Not running, not hiding, waiting. The days after Christmas felt unreal, like time had slowed just to test our nerves. Claire stayed inside my apartment, wrapped in sweaters, moving softly, like she was afraid to make noise. Some mornings she didn't speak at all. Other days, she'd sit by the window, watching snow melt into gray slush, whispering memories she'd buried for years. "They used to lock the door," she admitted one evening, her voice barely there. "Said I needed to cool off." I closed my eyes. Every word felt like a delayed wound finally bleeding. Ethan came by often, not just as an officer, but as someone who cared. He brought updates, careful and honest. The Whitfords were pushing hard, lawyers, connections, quiet pressure. "They want full control of the story," he said. "If they win in court, they erase everything." Claire's hands shook. "What if they win?" I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, they might. Their name carried weight, money, influence, the kind that doesn't shout, it whispers in the right ears. And the court date came fast, too fast. The morning of the hearing, the courthouse loomed cold and gray against the winter sky. Claire clutched my hand as we walked up the steps, her breath shallow. Cameras waited across the street, not many, but enough. Inside, everything smelled like paper and power. They were already there. Daniel stood tall in a sharp suit, confidence stitched into every movement. His parents sat behind him, calm, composed, like they were attending a business meeting, not deciding someone's future. Daniel looked at Claire and smiled, not kindly, like he already knew the ending. The judge entered. The room rose, then silence. Their lawyer spoke first, smooth, controlled, deadly. He painted Claire as unstable, emotional, dependent, claimed she was manipulated by me, that the recording was taken out of context, that Christmas Eve was a misunderstanding. Claire shrank beside me. Then it was our turn. Our lawyer spoke of neglect, of emotional harm, of exposure to dangerous conditions. The judge listened, but his face didn't change. Then came the moment that cracked my chest open. The judge ruled. Claire would be allowed to stay away, for now. But no abuse was officially recognized, no charges filed, no consequences. Daniel exhaled slowly. Victory. Claire broke down outside the courtroom, her tears silent, defeated. "It didn't matter," she sobbed. "None of it mattered." I held her as cameras clicked, but inside me something else was happening, because while the court had chosen silence, the truth was getting louder. Online, neighbors were talking. Former employees of the Whitfords were whispering. And one message hit my inbox late that night. "I know what they did. I have proof. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. This wasn't over. This was the moment before everything collapsed. The message stayed on my screen long after midnight. I know what they did. I have proof. No name, no number, just that sentence. I stared at it, my heart beat loud in my ears. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't sympathy. The words felt heavy, like someone had been carrying them for a long time and finally couldn't anymore. I typed back slowly. Who are you? 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then it appeared again. Someone they silenced. My stomach tightened. The next morning we met in a small cafe across town, a place with cracked tiles, soft music, and no cameras. Claire stayed in the car, wrapped in my coat, watching snow fall like she was afraid the world might notice her again. The woman who walked in looked nervous. Early 40s, tired eyes, hands that wouldn't stop shaking. My name is Hannah, she said quietly. I used to work for Daniel's family. She slid her phone across the table. I was the house manager for 6 years. I haven't touched the phone yet. I waited. They told me to keep quiet, she continued, about the shouting, the punishments, locking doors, sending women outside in the cold when they were disobedient. My blood ran cold. Women? I asked. She nodded. You're not the first. She unlocked her phone and pressed play. The recording wasn't dramatic. That made it worse. Daniel's voice, sharp, controlled. She needs discipline. Robert's voice, calm, approving. Cold teaches obedience. Then a woman crying. I felt sick. I kept copies, Hannah whispered. Messages, videos, orders. Why come forward now? I asked. She swallowed hard. Because I saw Claire on the news, and I realized if I stayed silent, I was just as guilty. I thanked her. My voice shook. That same night, Ethan brought another name. A former business partner, he said. They cut him out when he questioned how they treated family. More proof, more voices. The wall was cracking, and then the leak happened. Someone anonymous sent everything to a journalist. By morning, the headline was everywhere. Powerful family accused of patterned abuse. Daniel called. I didn't answer. Linda left voicemails, pleading, then threatening. Claire watched it all unfold in silence. Then she said something that changed everything. I want to speak, she said. I froze. Claire, I've been quiet my whole life, she continued. If I don't speak now, I never will. The interview aired that night. Claire didn't cry. She didn't scream. She told the truth about the cold, about the words, about how they broke her piece by piece. By the end, the reporter's voice cracked. Public opinion turned fast. Sponsors pulled out. Boards resigned. Friends disappeared. Daniel's power began to rot from the inside. And for the first time since Christmas Eve, Claire slept peacefully. But humiliation wasn't enough for them. And desperation makes people dangerous. Power doesn't disappear quietly. When people like Daniel feel it slipping away, they don't reflect, they strike. And when they strike from desperation, they make mistakes. The first sign came at dawn, a loud knock. Too loud, too early. I opened the door to find 2 officers standing there, not Ethan. Their expressions were stiff, official. Ma'am, one said, we have an order for a wellness check and temporary custody review. Claire appeared behind me, pale. Daniel. He had done it. They're trying to take me back, she whispered, panic rising. I stepped forward. On what grounds? Claims of manipulation and emotional instability. the officer replied carefully. I felt fury surge, but I stayed calm. Claire, I said softly, do you want to go with them? She shook her head violently. No! Ethan arrived minutes later, furious. This order was rushed, he said sharply. Filed last night. That was their mistake, because rushed paperwork leaves trails. By noon, Ethan uncovered it. Daniel had used an old contact, a retired judge, a favor called in too publicly, too sloppily. Journalists caught wind. Influence used to force custody move. The backlash was instant, but Daniel wasn't done. That night, Claire's phone buzzed. A message from him. You think you've won? Come home, or I'll ruin her. Claire handed me the phone, shaking. That was it. We didn't hide. We didn't negotiate. We handed everything to the police. The threat, the recordings, the abuse history. And this time, the law listened. A warrant was issued. At 2:17 a.m., Daniel was arrested for intimidation and coercion. Linda collapsed at the station. Robert's name surfaced in multiple investigations. The empire fell fast. Claire watched the news quietly. I thought it would feel good, she said. And? I asked. She shook her head. It just feels over. Not revenge. Release. But one final truth still waited in the shadows. The second time we walked into the courthouse, it felt different. No cameras shouting, no confident smiles waiting to crush us, just quiet tension and truth that refused to stay buried. Claire held my hand, but this time her grip was steady. Daniel sat at the defense table, no sharp suit, no smirk, just tired eyes and a jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. His parents weren't beside him anymore. Robert was under investigation. Linda sat several rows back, face pale, avoiding every gaze. The judge entered, a different one. That mattered. The prosecutor spoke first, not with emotion, with facts. A pattern of behavior, multiple witnesses, threats, coercion, psychological abuse. Hannah testified. So did the former business partner, then another woman, and another. Each story is different, but the cruelty is familiar. When Claire took the stand, the room held its breath. She spoke calmly, about the cold, about the words, about learning to believe she deserved nothing. Daniel stared straight ahead. When the judge spoke, his voice was firm. The court recognizes sustained emotional abuse. I closed my eyes. This court grants a permanent protection order. Claire exhaled, and all prior rulings influenced by misconduct are vacated. Daniel's head dropped. The gavel came down, not loudly, decisively. Outside, the winter sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks. Claire smiled, a real one. But as we walked away, I felt it. The weight of the final truth is still waiting. Spring arrived quietly. No announcement, no applause. It crept in through open windows, through sunlight touching the floor where pain once lived. The snow outside melted into soft puddles, and for the first time in a long while, Claire woke up without fear tightening her chest. She stood by the window one morning, holding a mug of tea, watching birds fight over breadcrumbs on the sidewalk. They're loud, she said. I smiled. They're alive. She nodded slowly, like she was learning what that meant again. Healing wasn't dramatic. It didn't happen in one brave speech or one courtroom victory. It happened in small moments. Claire choosing her own clothes, laughing at a silly show, cooking without being afraid of judgment. It happened when she stopped apologizing for taking up space. One afternoon, she handed me a small box. Inside was her wedding ring. I don't want to keep it, she said calmly, but I don't want to be angry anymore either. We walked together to the river. The water moved steady and strong, like it had seen worse things than us, and survived. Claire held the ring for a long second, then she let it go. It disappeared without a sound. "That's it?" she whispered. "That's enough," I replied. Weeks later, she started volunteering at a shelter. Just a few hours a week, listening, helping women who had stories that felt painfully familiar. One evening, she came home with red eyes, but her voice was firm. "They thought they were alone," she said. "I told them they weren't." I watched my daughter become herself again, not the woman someone tried to break, but the woman who endured. On the last day of the year, we decorated a small Christmas tree again, not because we forgot what happened, but because we refused to let it own us. Claire placed the star on top. "Next year," she said, smiling softly, "I want to help someone else leave." I hugged her. Winter had tried to freeze her worth. It failed. Because love, real love, doesn't demand silence. It doesn't punish pain, and it never locks someone out in the cold. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you love or someone you are, please don't stay silent. Share this story. Talk about it. Stand up when something feels wrong. And if you're watching this and you're hurting, you are not weak. You are not broken. You are not alone. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in this situation? Like this story if you believe courage deserves a voice. Subscribe for more stories that matter. Share this with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes one story is enough to help someone step back into the light.